Well, religious leaders gathered there to cheer as the president signed the order, but some conservatives say it doesn't go far enough. Somebody who knows, because he's on the inside of all of this, former Trump advisor, and he's on the National Diversity Coalition for President Trump as well, Bruce LeVell. Welcome to America Trends, Bruce. Good to have you.
Thanks, Dr. Gina. How you doing?
Doing well, thanks. Now, Bruce, this is all in reaction to the Johnson Amendment, and many of laymen out there who aren't wonks like you and me don't even know what the Johnson Amendment is. But the Johnson Amendment was not created for the purpose, but was ultimately used by the left to intimidate churches.
Right.
And so it's a great thing to think. We've all asked for that to go away. I've been asking for this from everyone who'd listen every time I got on television or radio for the last 5 years. But here's the thing. Some say, but it's an executive order. It doesn't go far enough. This needs to be a legislative move because otherwise the next president, God forbid, can make it go away again.
Right. Well, it's interesting. I was actually clapping. I was very happy because I recall back when we were in Trump Towers, I think it was 2015. It was November 28th. Pastor Darrell Scott, Pastor Lance Walnew, there was 110 plus pastors in that meeting, and I was very privileged to be in that room. And I remember very distinctively how President Trump at the time, candidate Trump, was very serious about saying he really wanted to implement this when he becomes the president of the United States. And that's where this prophecy came, Dr. Gina, where Lance Walnew said that, he is the king, he is the Cyrus of Isaiah 45, and he is, number 45 president of the United States. So it's a very emotional, very sensitive, should I say, feeling about how this happened today and how he kept his promise, what he said. And I was actually present in that room when he was a 2.5-hour meeting with pastors from all over the country. And he kept saying how many times he really wanted to implement this when he became president of the United States. This is in 2015. When he said this.
Oh, I remember that day well, because I had been, at that point, I went to Skyline Church with Jim Garlow, and Jim Garlow and I were very much at odds over these candidates, and I was 100% in with Trump, and he's like, I don't buy it, I don't believe it, but that moment changed things for a lot of pastors, and President Trump began to get a lot of support from religious leaders from across the country. But Bruce, in terms of this, what happened today in the Rose Garden, it's significant that it happened on National Prayer Day. It's significant that it happened in the Rose Garden because not a lot of presidents recently, anyway, have had National Day of Prayer in the Rose Garden. President Trump saw fit for that, and I think that's a big thing. But on a day-to-day basis for pastors, what difference does this make?
Well, it sent a powerful message out. And it was very interesting because I was actually texting Pastor Scott and Mark Burns and the gang, as I say, that were present, and CJ, you saw CJ Tara there, who was an imam of the Muslim faith, and he was on our coalition. And you saw Jesse Sinjay, who was part of the Sikh, faith base. So, and you saw the rabbis and the sisters there from the Catholic faith. So it was phenomenal because it gave me, it was such a emotional feeling because, like I said, being present many times of him being so strong and passionate about wanting to defend the faith-based community and wanting to stand up saying, we're going to say Merry Christmas. This is the United States. I'm sick and tired of people, messing with the church and the ministry. So it was very, very emotional day for me, especially.
Promises fulfilled. It's interesting because you hear so much in the left-wing press. In fact, every single day, every single time I take part with any of them, they always want to talk about Trump's Muslim ban, And yet, as you mentioned, there was a prominent Muslim there, someone from the Sikh faith. Also, President Trump has essentially said to Australia, at least through the vice president, that he would consider taking these very extremely vetted refugees from Australia in order to keep President Obama's not very well thought out deal, but just to keep the deal because that's what President Obama said he'd do. President Trump wants America to keep its commitments. So Bruce, will they continue with this narrative of him being a Muslim banner, if you will?
I think, it's unfortunate that this is going to be an ongoing attack on the president from here on to the next 8 years he's going to be president. And, Dr. Gina, as well as I do, one of the things that what started the Diversity Coalition was to bring all these different faith-based and religious groups together to stand in agreement for the president and standing behind President, or should I say candidate Trump, who now is the president of the United States. But, from Jewish Americans for Trump, Muslim Americans for Trump, African American pastors for Trump, very large coalition to get behind and stand behind him, because we know this is going to be a continuing, ongoing attack on such a great president as President Trump is. So we're battle tested. We're ready to go. We're growing. And, the proof is in the pudding. And, obviously the promises he's kept and he's keeping and he's delivering. And I'm very optimistic, though. I hope that people will finally give up and stop trying to create him to being this person that he's not, and unite with us. And let's, build this country and make America great again, like he said.
One of the things he said that makes America great is that our freedoms don't come from government. Our freedoms, in fact, come from God. How significant was that statement on this day in that place?
Well, I think it was very significant because, Dr. Gina, one of the things that really bothered me the most about the attack on the president is trying to question his faith. I'm going to be very honest with you. President Trump, he doesn't really wear it on his sleeve or talk about it, but I know for a fact, being around him, just like yourself, and many of us have been very privileged. I've flown with him many a times and been around in very intimate settings. And I have to tell you that there is no doubt in my heart that this man trusts God, believes in God, and understand who Christ is in his heart. There is no doubt in whatsoever. So I'm very happy and elated that the most powerful person in the world has an accountability partner, that being God, and being accountable and being humbled enough to understand where his power comes from is through God. So I'm very thankful.
Very critical. Yeah. Bruce, it was enjoyable being a surrogate with you during the campaign. I got to meet you then. You told me some of this then and reaffirmed what I was fighting for at that time. So I very much appreciate you. I appreciate the work you continue to do. Thanks for being with us today.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.